Hey guys, does showing up in the small things in marriage seem not important or insignificant? Are you frustrated by constant friction with your wife? When you think of your marriage, does the word hard come to mind? Does peace in your marriage seem unattainable? You're not alone. Husbands around the world struggle with hard marriages. Guys, do you want to lead your family with confidence, but you're unsure how or you feel inadequate as a husband or dad? Welcome to Men Who Lead Well. I'm your host, Glenn Brose. I help men learn how to lead effectively through self-leadership, practical faith, and anchored identity. So pause the world for a minute and let's hang out. When I was just dating my wife, I did a special Marjorie Day. I had planned out this entire Saturday. We lived in San Diego at the time. And it included everything from going on a hike and a picnic in we called them the mountains, but they're really tall foothills or tall hills outside of San Diego, to driving back to the beach. And I took her on a quote unquote cruise. I had this inflatable raft that we went through paddled through the little bit of the ocean with. Anyways, bonfire at night, everything. And she absolutely adored it. It's not that I spent lots of money on it, but I had planned it out very well, and I'd given her gifts throughout the day, and I had made this little schedule of events. And even to this day, many, many years later, she still talks about that. It's easy to focus on the big things. It's easy to put all of our time and attention on major events or major struggles or issues or challenges. It seems to me it's a lot harder to focus on the little things, to show up on small things. And later on, we got married, and frustration set into our marriage because it felt like we disagreed often. Somebody's tone of voice, and usually it would be mine, my tone of voice would trigger the other person. We would be offended by something the other did or didn't do or said or didn't say. And a lot of times the offended person was me. I didn't always show up for the small things. We have quite a few children. We have 5 children, and they're all grown now, but I hated changing diapers. So even though I changed a lot of diapers, Marjorie, my wife, probably could not count on me to change a diaper. Doing dishes, I would eat something and I would rinse it off, but I would set it on the counter and I wouldn't I wouldn't either wash it or put it in the dishwasher many times. My wife loves meaningful conversations, and I was not always good at just the small conversations throughout the day. She liked going on picnics, and when we were dating, I took her on several picnics, but once we got married, probably not a lot of picnics took place. And I found myself getting lost in the busyness of life and having children and just being consumed with big events, the major crises that would happen or the major struggles. That's where the focus and attention would go. It was so easy to be consumed by these big issues and ignore the smaller details. I wasn't faithful in the little things, the spice ingredients of marriage. And what I've learned, it's not the big extravagant things or events that impresses our wife or endears our wife to us. It's faithfully showing up in the little things day after day. I've discovered that my wife wants her husband to be present in the moment, whatever that moment is. She's not always looking to have a Marjorie Day. She wants me present in the moment every day. Husbands, let's be honest. We want amazing times with our wives in bed, right? We want our wives to enthusiastically let us go away on hunting trips or to a baseball or football game or to hang out with our guy friends. We want our wives to support us in big career decisions. But do we show up in the small, everyday areas of marriage? I liken it to this. To make brownies, and I love brownies. To make brownies, what is the largest ingredient that goes into brownies? Flour, right? Have you ever made brownies and forgot salt? Salt is probably by volume, it's probably one of the ingredients that is the least. But if you ever had brownies without salt in it, they taste horrible. And it's exactly like our lives. We focus so much on these big events, making sure I have enough flour to go into the brownies. But then we forget the smallest ingredients. And sometimes the smallest ingredients are the most important ingredients because that's what ties everything together. Luke 16:10. Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he had just talked about a parable. And he says this to his disciples. He says this to you and me. If you are faithful in the little things, you'll be faithful in the large ones. But if you are dishonest in the little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. What is he saying? Jesus is telling us you have to be faithful in the small details, in the small ingredients in life, in order to be trustworthy, to be able to handle the larger ones. In a different part of the New Testament, Jesus tells his disciples the parable of the talents. And this is in Matthew 25:14-30. And I'll just briefly tell you the parable. Jesus tells his disciples that a wealthy man goes on a journey, and before he goes, he calls 3 of his employees in, and he gives each of them a certain amount of money. To one, he gives like $5,000, to another $2,000, and another like $500. In verse 15, this is the one I want to concentrate on. Jesus says, to the one he gave, which is what I just said. He gave 5 talents of money. Talent is just a weight of money, a measurement of money. To another 2 talents, another 1 talent. Each according to his ability. I think that is a very key verse to the whole parable of the talents. The parable goes on and talks about how the one who was given $5,000 invested the money wisely, and when his boss came back, he presented his boss with $10,000, the original $5,000, and then the $5,000 he gained. And the one who had been given $2,000, same thing. He doubled his money. But the one who was given like $500 was scared of his master, and he basically just hid the money. Didn't put it in the bank, didn't earn interest, let alone invest the money. He didn't do anything with what he had been given. So again, verse 15, the boss gave each of his employees an amount of money according to the ability. So what does that teach us? It teaches us that God gives us things. He gives us relationships. He gives us money. He gives us resources, if you think of it in those terms. And he gives it according to our ability. So men, we have been given, if we're married, in a sense, you could say we've been given a wife, a great resource. And I don't mean that our wives are a resource, much more than that. But I just want you to look at our marriages through this lens. We have been given this wonderful wife. How are we stewarding? How are we investing into our marriage? Are we like the first 2 who takes our marriage and invest into the marriage and great dividends come as a result? Or are we like the last one who squandered what he had? And so what I've learned, this simple concept, faithful with the little, you'll be faithful with the much. That applies to absolutely every area of our life. And it seems so basic. It seems so simple. It seems like a kindergarten level concept. But I'm telling you, I've experienced this, and I see this in society today, that we're always wanting something bigger. At least maybe this is me. Can you relate to this? You're always wanting the bigger house, the promotion at work, the bigger car, the more friends. There's always something that we don't have. We want this bigger thing, and we've never been faithful with what it is we have been given. When we look at this in terms of our marriage, we've been given this great, precious gift of marriage. Have we been faithful with the little things? When I look back at my marriage, especially the first 5, 10 years? Was I faithful in the little things? Did I show up in the small salt-like ingredients? So there's 5 areas I want to challenge you to be faithful in. You could call them gifts. The first one is, are you a good listener? Do you pause your day when you're with your wife? Do you listen? I call this the gift of communication. Do I take my phone, put it down? Do I turn off the TV? Do I set the distractions aside? And do I focus on my wife and just listen? And when appropriate, talk back, communicate, share. The gift of communication. Number 2, am I faithful in helping or doing household chores? So I call this the gift of help or being helpful. Or do I expect someone else to always do these things for me? I can't be bothered. I'm just here to focus on the big things. Am I faithful in just helping with the simple task of living in a house with my wife? Doing dishes or helping fold the laundry or even ironing. Number 3, am I faithful in saying thank you? I call this the gift of gratitude. Do I tell my wife thank you? Thank you for whatever she does. Maybe she made you dinner. Maybe she makes you lunch. Maybe she gives you a back rub. Maybe it's the way she looks, or she holds your hand or gives you a long hug after a hard day. Do we tell our wives thank you? Do we have an attitude of gratitude, the gift of gratitude? Number 4, do I open the door for her? What do I mean by that? Am I considerate of my wife? So many times I look at couples and I see the guy doing his own thing, kind of ignoring his wife. When they go somewhere, he's the one that's walking in front and the wife kind of has to keep up. Am I considerate of my wife? Do I notice her and do I put her first? The gift of being considerate. Last one, number 5, going on a walk or having a picnic, a lunchtime with her. I call this the gift of time. Do I separate time out? And that doesn't need to be extravagant. It doesn't need to be expensive. Do I give the gift of time? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick one thing in each of these 5 areas that I just talked about that you're going to commit to be faithful in. So we could call these salt areas or salt ingredients, these 5 gifts we're going to give our wife. Not once. Being faithful means repeated action over time. Am I faithful? Do I faithfully listen? So I want you to set aside a time every day just to talk with your wife. Listen to your wife. Ask her questions about her day. Find a chore around the house that you can do for your wife. Be helpful. Pick some things, just kind of set aside in your mind. Okay, today I'm going to thank my wife for these 3 things. What are those 3 things you're going to thank your wife? And be consistent. Do this daily. Find a way that you can be considerate. Be faithful in being considerate. Maybe that's opening the door. Maybe that's walking her out to her car if she's going to on her way to work. Maybe that's greeting her at the door if you get home before her. Find some way to be considerate. And then lastly, how can you give her the gift of time? What area, of time can you be faithful in? Maybe that's once a week. You're going to dedicate a time or set aside this special time just to spend with her, just to make her feel special, not with any ulterior motives on these 5 gifts. How do we make our marriages better? It's easy to focus on the flower. It's easy to get consumed by the big challenges in life, but absolutely ignore the most important ingredients, which is, do I show up faithfully in the small everyday things that on the surface seem insignificant, but in reality is probably the most important aspect of our marriage. I guarantee you, if you will commit and actually follow through and become faithful in these little things, it will pay dividends because you will then be trustworthy for the bigger things. And this is such an important principle because it doesn't just apply to our marriages. It applies as parents. It applies at work. It applies in every area of our life. This is a foundational principle that we need to let it become a part of who we are, to be faithful with the little so that we can be faithful with the much. I want you to know how much I believe in you. You are not a failure. You were created by God and He calls you good. You are a good leader. You are a responsible husband. You are faithful with what you've been given. And as you are faithful with what you have been given, you will be entrusted with more. Live up to what you've already been given. And above all else, ask God to help you. In Matthew 19:26, Jesus looked intently at you and He said, humanly speaking, it's impossible, but with God, everything is possible. Let me pray. God, you are such a good God. You loved us so much. You created us, you blessed us, and you called us good. And you have given us precious thing of marriage. Help us as men to become husbands who lead well, who lead our families well. Help us to be faithful in the small things, to prove that we can be entrusted with greater things. Help us to understand that principle. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Man, I want to encourage you to join our Facebook group, Becoming Men Who Lead Well. Share your thoughts. I post on there regularly and I ask questions to spur conversation so that iron sharpens iron, as Proverbs says, so that men, we can sharpen each other. I love to connect with you there. Just go to Facebook, search for Becoming Men Who Lead Well. Until next time. Hey, thank you for hanging with me. If this helped you today, the best way to say thanks is to subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcast, and share it with someone else. It really helps, and I appreciate it. Lastly, I'd like to invite you to join our growing Facebook community, Becoming Men Who Lead Well. Until next time.